Dave Bondy is an independent journalist who spent decades as a mainstream media TV news anchor. He left the biz several years ago and started his own blog and podcast called Keeping It Real with Dave Bondy on Substack and other platforms. He's here this morning to talk about an issue that's big in the Midwest right now and also affecting school districts here in New Jersey. Good morning, Dave Bondy.
Good morning. It's great to be on here once again. Yeah, we have a big controversy going on in Michigan, and it's happening nationwide as well, and it's all about education. Michigan, we fall into 44th in the nation when it comes to test scores, reading scores. I haven't looked into how New Jersey or New York's doing, but it's a struggle here.
Yeah, well, New Jersey was number 2 at one point in the nation just a few years ago, and we have now dropped from number 2 to number 15. And part of the problem is in the good districts, the quote-unquote good districts, it's great. But the problem is we have big urban centers where people can't get out of a 4th grade reading level. And when you mix them together, that's what you get. So we have now, because of the influx primarily of, and this is not to paint it with a broad brush, primarily the influx of illegal migrants. And by law, we have to educate everybody's children, and we should. I'm fine with that, because otherwise you end up with bigger problems down the line. But the problem is, because that happens, you have kids who come in who don't know the language, and we do have ESL here. That's essential. But overall, it then brings down the grade level. And if you could tie directly to when we had the huge influx in the last few years of illegal migrants to where we dropped from 2nd in the nation to 15th in the nation, in spite of the fact that we are spending 1st or 2nd, I think, per pupil, highest in the country. It's like $30,000 per pupil.
Yeah, they just passed a new budget in Michigan, $23,000 per student. The Detroit school district amongst the worst. So throwing money at the problem is not helping. And now the controversy the State Board of Education is trying to adopt a program from Massachusetts, the curriculum, to change the health curriculum. They're trying to intertwine health and sex education into one. And with it comes more gender ideology. And parents are not happy about it. And they tried sneaking it through somewhat in the middle of the night. And I published it on my Substack, and others got it out there. There was a big meeting yesterday at the Capitol in Michigan. 30 parents spoke. They delayed the vote. And that's causing a big issue. And then you have the Trump administration, who has spoken out, as you know, against all the states, saying, we're going to take away your money if you implement these things. And it sounds like Michigan they're going to push back. They're going to test it to see how far it can go. So we're getting in the middle of that fight in Michigan. And Michigan went for Trump, but Michigan has a Democratic governor, attorney general. We have a race for governor next year. Governor Whitmer is termed out, so we'll have a new governor. But it's getting interesting. And at the same time, our education system is failing. It's going down. More kids are homeschooling. We're losing. Every district is losing more kids, either homeschooling or charter schooling. I interviewed a dad the other day who moved to Florida just because of their school choice. He literally grew up in Michigan. He left to go to Florida just because of the school choice opportunity.
Interesting. And that's been the case in New Jersey. In fact, New Jersey has had such a flight to Florida that, and by the way, New Jersey people tend to move to the East Coast, and Midwestern people tend to move to the West Coast to Florida, just for what it's worth. Because I live in Florida part-time, and it's just so funny. You go visit friends in Naples or whatever, and they're all like, yep, I'm from Ohio. And then you go to the East Coast, Fort Lauderdale, and everyone's like, yo, I'm from New York. How you doing? Just hang up by the pool.
He lives in Tampa.
Yep. There you go. West Coast, East Coast. Perfect. Exactly. Beautiful city, Tampa, by the way. But yeah, and you know, in New Jersey, we also had, among that, everything that you just discussed, we've encountered. It tends to happen that way because all the school administrators communicate with each other and they say, that's a good liberal idea. We want that here too. You know, we had a situation of a law that passed in one town in New Jersey where if a child or student, commits a crime several times, now a parent can be charged with the crime and could be fined, etc. And part of it is because the liberals in the state of New Jersey, I almost said Connecticut, state of New Jersey, they have liberals too there. But the liberals here decided, oh, let's just get rid of all these stigmatizing laws against children. If they're under 18, even though at 17 they could reproduce and get a car and slash someone's throat. No. Let's not have any punishment of anybody. They don't even have juvenile delinquent laws anymore. They're all gone. So as a result, kids have no consequences when they commit crime. And that's why you have carjackings in the city of Newark that are rampant, because gangs take 15-year-old kids, teach them how to carjack, and now if they get arrested, nothing happens to them. That's what it's given us, because this is the liberal mindset. Liberals are fine with crime because it's the victimizer and victim mentality. And if you check certain boxes, you're a victim. And it doesn't matter if you commit crimes against the victimizer colonialist, because they have it coming to them. That's the socialist liberal mindset that has been instructed in our state.
It's just amazing how even states like Mississippi now are in the top 5 in levels with reading and writing. And a big problem is the teachers' unions. I hate to say it, but I've been learning so much over the last few years and studying the teachers' unions. There are great teachers out there, but the higher echelon of teachers' unions don't seem to care about the kids at all.
Absolutely not. And that is the case. The teachers' unions are all headed up by leftists. Even though some of the rank and file are somewhat in the middle, you have leftists. Hey, perfect example. We have a gubernatorial race happening here in New Jersey right now, Dave, and it's neck and neck right now. And of course, the whole nation is watching. But it's Mikey Sherrill and Jack Ciattarelli. We just had Jack on the other day, and it's literally, depending on what poll you look at, it's doing that, But it's a state where we have 860,000 more registered Democrats than Republicans. So the fact that it's neck and neck is not good news for the Democrat, because she should be 10 points ahead right now. And there's only one poll. One poll, I think, has her 9 points ahead. But that same poll, if you go back 4 years, had Governor Murphy 11 points ahead, and he only won by 3. A week later. So it shows you how off the polls are, because they tend to oversample Democrats over Republicans, so they get a higher number of Democrats responding, and it looks like the Democrats ahead. I think right now they're probably about a point. Somebody's going to win by about a point and a half. That's where it is. But when asked flat out about school choice and whatnot, it's always the Republican governor. I say governor, the man wanting to be governor, Jack Ciattarelli, is for school choice. And meanwhile, you have the woman who's running against him, Mikey Sherrill, who's has not expressed an opinion on that. She's also not expressed an opinion on whether she would raise taxes, which to me says, yep, just my opinion. She didn't say it. She just says, I won't commit myself to that. To me, that the answer is yep. Yeah. And on and on. And now she's accusing the man she's running against of being a murderer. So go figure.
Yeah, I'm sure, and how much money she's getting from teachers' unions, quite a bit, I'm sure.
Well, and there was another Democrat who ran for governor in the primary and didn't win, but his name is Siller, and he was the president of the New Jersey Teachers Union.
I remember that, yeah.
Millions came into him, and by the way, he was in last place. He had to drop out. He only qualified to show up at the debates because of all the money he had in the coffers, but 99% of that money came from the teachers union that he was in charge of. So now there are teachers suing, saying, wait a minute, we didn't put our dues in to get you to run for governor. I'm sorry.
Good.
It's interesting. It's just interesting to say the least. But Democrats have their own mindset. It's like, and I think that's why there is such polarization. We talk like this now because we're not even on the same plane. We would never think it's okay as Republicans to be the head of an organization and take all the dues from that organization to make you run, to fund you to run for an office that you didn't even do research on to see you were going to be in last place. Millions of dollars.
But hopefully they're waking up, like what's happening in New Jersey with that case right there. And here, I think people are slowly waking up. I'm talking to teachers and even UAW members. The left is putting their money in places like with the Middle East, Hamas, and the situation. The UAW is putting a lot of money into that. Even independents, union people are waking up and saying, I don't think I want my money going to that.
And it's about time. It's about time. And at the same time, you have more and more cases around the country of people waking up, finding out that their child is having to share a locker room with somebody of the opposite sex who believes they are not of the opposite sex. That's a psychological issue that I don't need and I don't have kids, but if I did, I don't need my kid having to be the experiment for. It's just unfair. You have right now, in fact, we just watched on Fox yesterday, a parent whose child was in a school, and there was a young woman who was naked changing in the locker room with the boys. There was never even a mention as to whether this person was trans or not. I don't even know if that enters into it. The issue is whether anyone of any gender has the right to go into any other gendered locker room and use it. The boys, somebody started rolling on the audio. They weren't pointing at the body, so there was no visual of the nudity. But one of the boys said, we need to record what's going on here verbally. I thought it was very smart that he did that without recording the physical. And you heard boys saying, why is there a female in our room right now with naked boys here? I don't feel comfortable. I'm putting on a towel. And that was part of the conversation. The school district suspended the boys.
Of course they did.
Of course they did. And the school did. By the way, there were other cases in the past. The school district didn't do the same thing when it was in the opposite. But in this case, the school district is suspended the boys, and a judge is ordering the parents to pay the school district's legal costs. So your kid goes to a school, he is forced to be naked in front, because he has to change. You force your kid to go to school, right? The school district forces your kid to go to school. They force your kid to go to gym. The kid is doing everything they're supposed to do. They have to change in order to get to their next class. And then you force upon them somebody of a different gender, naked. And then when the kid has a natural 13, 14-year-old reaction, you sue the parents? This is the sickness that is liberalism, and this is why, Dave, they're going to lose.
That is an advertisement for homeschooling right there.
There you go. Unfortunately, not every parent can afford to do it. That's the problem.
True. Yeah.
So that's maybe an advertisement for a Christian school or a Hebrew school.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, I could talk to you for days. Dave Bondy, independent journalist, spent decades as mainstream media, TV news anchor, did the wise thing like me, although I was kind of forced out. You did it on your own, which was smart.
I would have been forced out eventually.
Yeah, I think everybody's going to be in the next couple of years, and I feel bad for my friends. I got the head start. I look at it that way, both of us. Dave now has his blog and podcast, Keeping It Real with Dave Bondy, on Substack and other platforms. Always a pleasure to have you on, my friend, Mr. Dave Bondy. Have a great day, sir.